A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Bandtastic here on HJN Season 3. And now, here we go with some more material, and more importantly, what we got for today's piece for number 2118 is known as R.E.M. So, for those of you who actually remember these guys way back in the day, listen up. I got my own bit of knowledge to offer here. Please let me know if it's accurate or not, but these guys were formed in the early 80s. That's pretty much a good start. Michael Stipe was one of the leading members. So, like I said, the comment section is right down below in case you need to mention anything or possibly correct any kind of error I may have made in the video. But anyways though, these guys were actually quite successful up until the 2000s, where a few problems would ensue. But more on that part later. Because after all, these guys are pretty amazing. In 1987 and 1988 alone, with their album known as Documents, they have made themselves a big success. Probably one of the best cult followings you might have ever seen in the history of old school rock and roll in the late 80s and early 90s. That particular period in history was one of those where it actually started to feel a bit more modernized as opposed to how futuristic and whatnot they were trying to be. Trying to use a synthesizer seemed to be the minimal goal by this point, although some other music would still continue to use it on a regular basis. But what R.E.M. decided to do, or R.E.M., depending on how you guys would want to pronounce that stuff, this band in particular actually managed to hit big with their own official title known as It's the End of the World as We Know It. That single alone from 1988, which turns 35 now by the way, and sure has made a pretty big impact in pop culture, especially when being featured in certain movies, TV shows, like in one episode in Family Guy for instance where Peter Griffin has a stroke. Oh boy. That was quite a moment in TV history, but I especially do remember when this song was also used in various YouTube videos way back in the day. But other than the many pop culture appearances that this one single has been involved in, one that I've especially had fond memories of was another single from that album, The One I Love. This one has a bit of a more slow tempo, but it also has itself a good feeling to it. With the combination of the drums and guitars just ringing in and really speaking out loud to you. With Stipe at the mic, it really does give you quite the good feeling that you actually have yourself someone you care about in life. And the fact is, these guys were willing to make a subliminal love song for the generation ahead. And I feel like they not only did a good job then, but they sure as heck are going to do a great job now, as long as I continue to bring the song along for newer generations of people. And so, unfortunately though, even though they have made some really big success back then with the 80s and 90s pretty much coming and going throughout history, and as it continued to unfold with the new millennium in mind, unfortunately this is just the point where some things would take place, and in 2011, they would disband. Pretty much permanently. After some interviews and whatnot, we could definitely confirm by this point, they're unlikely to reunite. And after 12 years, much like a lot of other things that have happened in 12 years, in the year 2011, I mean, Austin Scooter 88 is clearly not offering any more kids screaming at Black Ops videos, even though they promised us that. Oh boy, after 12 years, you would think that he would not want to ghost us with something cool, like kids screaming at Modern Warfare 2 retold. That would have been awesome, or something. Or something else entirely, but other than that though, R.E.M. I'm sure is going to remain a great memory in a lot of people's minds. Many who were hardcore fans then will certainly get the chance to talk about this stuff nowadays. I was only 12 at the time they disbanded in 2011, so I'm sure that at some point I would have come across this article back then. But looking at it now, it just gives me a subtle reminder. They never truly leave. Their music continues to be downloaded, streamed, listened by lots of people. I just have yet to know who these other faces are that could be listening to any of these songs right now. It might even be the one I love, 1987, but the whole thing is, they probably never will make any newer material. Unlike a lot of bands that were able to come back, especially in recent years, in 2022 alone, like I've said, lots of bands were able to make amazing comebacks. I mean, Amber Lynn did it, Death Cab for Cutie did it, and it almost does seem like a few other bands are going to be able to make that happen as well. But not these guys, unfortunately. So I guess there's not much more for me to say. I will see you guys in the next installment of HGN Bandtastic.